Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Greer, and I'm CEO of Secure Content Technologies. And I'm honored to be here today with Kris Wayman. He's the field CTO for Binary Defense. Welcome, Kris.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we are kicking off a program on how to mature your security program. And today's topic, I think, is going to be it's going to resonate very much with our audience. It's based on why traditional security investments are falling short and how they're actually shifting. So I'm anxious to hear your kind of thoughts and feedback on that, because I think it's really very poignant topic right now.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of customers, large and small, and kind of one of the things that I hear, especially from our vantage as an MDR provider, that services across technology stacks, right? We're pretty agnostic. Is one, MDR has been around long enough for people to be kind of dissatisfied with the service that they've gotten from some MDRs, and two, there is a lot of I think reevaluating of where we're spending money, and because it feels like the controls we're putting in place, we're not really getting more secure. You read all these threat reports, and kind of the threats keep evolving. The threats get there faster. The people keep getting hit. The cost is still skyrocketing, and so we kind of frame it around this. There's a threat component, a data component, and a people component, and I know some of those have some charge for different people, especially like the cybersecurity skills gap and like hiring and things. But when we think about really how you solve this problem and where security investments have fallen short, if you can really come back to almost first principles of what are you trying to do and what's the difference, and block out some of the noise, because I also think our industry is very, very guilty of FUD and like selling the next thing, when in reality there's a lot of really beneficial stuff that you can do as just like foundational work to make your organization more secure. And I think that's where organizations are really starting to focus. Like you're reevaluating spend and investment and shifting to the things that you can demonstrate reduce risk for an organization, rather than like chasing the next thing that came out at Black Hat or RSA.
True. So you kind of mentioned the talent war and the issue of people. And I think many leaders think they can solve this with more budget or bigger salaries, but that doesn't seem like a sustainable strategy to me either. And I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, this is the people topic. Like there's for sure a talent war of how do you get the best people, but and the charged part for people is this, like, do we really have millions of unfilled cybersecurity roles? Is that even really the right way to look at it?
Right.
In some ways, I think those are almost irrelevant. I look at it more of like burnout for the people doing the work as the people, this like talent war of who you're trying to keep your people, the retention of your people, because this is a hard job when you work in a SOC. There is so much coming at you, and there's so much noise because tools are spitting it out, especially if you're using like a legacy SIEM or something, and the data that's coming at you is so noisy. It's a very taxing, like almost first responder type position for people in the SOC. And so, yeah, there's like, can you get the right people? Do you have enough budget to do that with the people? But even the people that you've got are kind of doing the security work right now. I talk to so many practitioners and even leaders all the way up through CISOs that are so burnt out because the way that we've been trying to tackle security problems is not evolving as quickly as like the volume of threats that's coming at us. And so it's just this like alert fatigue everybody's heard of, but it's also I kind of liken it to in psychology or counseling, there's this concept of compassion fatigue, or like you lose that sense of being able to do your job. It's a very similar thing in the SOC. You have trouble like identifying good and bad, and is that evil? Is it really evil? Am I giving the analysis and all that kind of stuff? So all of that wrapped around then the like humanity aspect of these are real people that are suffering in their life to some degree because they're burnt out. They just like the job that they've got is really difficult to do. And so that's what we try to help solve. Fundamentally, I think collectively we talk about that a lot. Like, how do you help someone mature a program and help their people have better quality of life and help the business do what the business does?
That really resonates with me. big time, because we're brought in to consult with a lot of our clients on their security stack, et cetera. And a lot of them will lead the discussion wanting a SIEM. And, kind of my first question is, do you really need a SIEM? Do you have this whole staff to manage the SIEM and all the alerts that are going to be thrown at you? And then there's this gap between the investment in the SIEM and the actual security outcome that they're going to be getting from that, right? So I think that it's interesting. We have these expensive platforms that are failing to deliver core pieces of security that they were intended to bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a shift in that market right now. I would call it legacy, and there are vendors that have trademarked things like, I'll call it modern SIM so that we don't get confused about, vendor names, but like legacy versus modern, and what those really mean for us. It's like this paradigm shift of trying to take back the promise of what SIM was supposed to be, or deliver on what we're trying to use legacy SIMs for. Because if you remember, SIM as an information and event management system was like largely compliance and log storage, right? It's like almost your filing cabinet. And so if you're trying to do high velocity threat hunting in a system that wasn't really designed for it, it can be laborious and painful and noisy, and like all of the things that contribute to everything we just talked about. So what we see is more of this shift towards like a convergence of your SIM and your SOAR and like an underlying data model to really try and holistically deal with the problem so that you get more out of it. And so you've got some really interesting products in the market that I think are trying to solve that problem, to consolidate so that you don't have to stitch together your own full security stack. You kind of see the market shifting towards this, vendors trying to help solve these problems with interesting products.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. And one of the things I think that you were talking about prior is alert fatigue, which we get complaints from customers all the time. They're like, A, we've got all these alerts that we're not really sure what to do with at sometimes. And B, there's so many coming at us. So I kind of like, maybe our audience would like to learn a little bit more about what alert fatigue really means. And on a day-to-day basis, why is it so dangerous for customers? Or I'm sorry, for companies.
Yeah, I would say, when I explain it to like my parents, because they're not in security, I talk about it in terms of like, imagine your smoke detector going off every 30 seconds. Even if it just goes off in the middle of the night once, you wake up in this like cold sweat and it impacts you. So you've got, imagine it all the time, and you don't really know, is there really a fire? Especially with like your smoke alarms now, the whole house goes off and you're like, where's this coming from? What's happening? Is it just a bad battery? That's like very similar to what we deal with in the SOC. So my perspective on this, our perspective of binary, is like, this is a data problem fundamentally. When you don't have a good handle on your data and you don't really understand how to build proper detections and like tell a full threat story, a lot of those gaps just feel really hard, because it makes it really hard. Not only are you getting so many alerts, it takes a ton of time for you to go chase them down because you don't have all the data in a single place. And so this is what I was talking about kind of at the beginning. If you take a step back to almost first principles, like, how would I solve this problem today? It becomes a data problem first and foremost. And there's like an outpouring of outcomes and better quality of life for analysts and better, speed, MTTD and MTTE, and like all these metrics that we talk about in the industry. That's, probably the best way that I would frame alert fatigue, and like what it is and what do we do about it.
You broke that down so that I even understood it. But so one thing I'm seeing too is a lot of the security spending is driven by compliance issues, PCI, HIPAA, et cetera. But just because you're compliant doesn't necessarily mean you're secure. And I'm kind of interested to see what your perspective is on that and how that mindset guides people. And is it leading them astray? Is it helping their decision making? Is it just confusing things? Like, it's a whole topic.
It is. We could do a whole session on that. I really, what my advice, like if people are listening on this, is it's attention. And we definitely run into situations where customers you just put something in place because you need a compliance checkbox. But if you're going to do that, the best recommendation I can give you is to have a risk register and to get business understanding of like what that really means. If you're going to only put in this perfunctory, like minimal solution, and it's a control in place that doesn't really give you better outcomes, you should be trying to articulate to the business how it's not the best solution, it is a solution, and you're trying to do it for compliance. And that is totally okay. We all have stuff in our business like that where there's risk acceptance. When we start talking about, MDR and cybersecurity in general, we try to look at it as like a risk avoidance or risk reduction thing. How do you, what are the things you're okay with having risk for, and how do you drive the risk down on other stuff?
Interesting. So I think the issue here is it's not lack of, it's more a lack of outcomes, not a lack of tools, is what I'm trying to spit out there. And it feels to me like a tangible business risk that people are taking, trying to figure out, is the juice worth the squeeze, so to speak? Am I investing in the right things? Am I getting the right outcomes? Because to me, it feels like there's always a new solution out there, a new issue that they're trying to tackle.
Yeah, I mean, we all know like ransomware's a thing. Everybody that's not in the industry, we talk about operational disruption and brand damage and all those things. But there's also the internal cost of like wasted budget, and then when you go ask for more budget, did you have reputation loss personally? Like, do you have trouble going and getting the stuff you really need? Do you have shelfware? Do you have things in place that are misconfigured or not fully configured? And so, like, this is a broad topic, and again, as we kind of draw to the close on it, one of the best pieces of advice I would say is like, look around at where the high impact pieces of technology that you've got are, and go tune them properly. Put in the proper policies, make sure it's deployed everywhere, make sure that like just the table stakes stuff is done, and you'll be a lot better off than going and buying some new widget tool, because there's no shortage. Everybody's telling you all of the things that you should come buy. But what I see as like a really interesting first step for most people is take stock, be a little more introspective and figure out where you can optimize so that when you make the next step for spend, you're really doing it with intentionality, and there's like a clear value for the business to get something out of it.
I think that's a really powerful summary, Kris. Your intelligence and your knowledge of this industry is always impressed me in the years that I've known you. So thank you for that. So in our next session, we're going to really kind of tackle strategies and approaches that customers can take to shore up their security and really be effective in this world that we're living in right now.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I look forward to our next two sessions. We're going to get in the weeds on a lot more issues that I think are going to resonate, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Cheers.
Cheers.